national policies can be important. I think, for example, the fact that this country is not adopting a nuclear policy sets a very bad example to the world, and I do hope that soon that will change. I think we need nuclear power urgently and soon because of the fierce changes of global warming. We're not going to get by doing what we're doing, and so there won't be any opportunity for a slow drift back. The public are either going to have to like it or accept it. We could follow the Swedish model. There was probably no country more averse to nuclear power than Sweden round about 1990, shall we say. But they have swung popular opinion right round so that there is now a majority in Sweden in favour of nuclear power. So it can be done, and that's a good model, I think. But I don't think we have time for that Swedish approach. I think it's got to be done by the government deciding that it really is needed. But I've disagreed with the Greens all right from the very beginning because they are humanist. My concern is for the earth, and I think that concern is vital for people, because if we don't take care of the earth will be unable to take care of us. And if we damage it, then we damage ourselves. And the Greens do not seem to understand this. They're obsessed with personal human problems. They're always frightened that something or other might cause cancer. And I think they've sort of looped themselves into this because the general public out there are very frightened of cancer. They've seen relatives die of it, and they know what an unpleasant disease it is. And so it's very easy to scare people by telling them that such and such a thing is carcinogenic. And I think the Greens have kind of sucked themselves into a rather false and bad position of using fear of cancer as a way of gaining support. Actually, the real dangers come from the earth itself and not from that kind of thing. Just look at the world now. We are living longer than we've ever lived, and yet we all breathed in the dust of those enormous nuclear explosions that were tested in the Pacific in the 1960s. If the Greens had been even a fraction right, we should all be dying of much more of cancer now than we are. We're not. If anything, the rate has dropped. They built up a kind of false story based on humanism. I say, look at the earth. I'm not against renewables. I don't like windmills. I think in this small country, which is almost one large city rather than a country, our countryside that we do have is precious parkland and should not be devastated by industrial developments like wind farms. There are places for wind farms where they will be acceptable and harmless. So it's a case of horses for courses, I think. I'm not against renewables, but they certainly won't fill the gap of energy need. The Greens have got this idea that burning gas is only half as carbon dioxide productive as burning coal. This is true in simple schoolroom chemistry. But in practice, if you burn gas, the supply chain, right from the point of production, right the way to the homes where you burn it in, there are leakages. And you've only to allow 4% of the gas to leak, and you are now back as bad as burning coal, because methane is 25 times as potent a greenhouse gas as carbon dioxide. So unless you take the leakages, which are, I'm told by industry people, are largely unavoidable, into account, the gas advantage is not there. Nuclear waste really irritates me. It should not be a problem at all. In fact, as I think Hans Blixer said, the waste from nuclear is one of its great benefits. There's so little of it. When one thinks of the mountains, the invisible mountains of carbon dioxide, cubic miles of the stuff that we're dumping into the atmosphere every year and wrecking the planet, to fret about 10 cubic meters of nuclear waste, which is, I think, the total output of high-level waste in Britain since they started work, is absurd. It's ridiculous. It isn't a problem at all.